Lately, I spend a lot of my time at ED3, and there's a good reason why. You can make a really good amount of money here if you do get a little bit of luck, as the drops from the Ambassador are incredibly valuable. That being said, Elite Dungeon 3 is one of the dungeons that people seem to struggle with the most, and there's probably a good reason why. Ambassador is very difficult to beat, and also Taraket before the Ambassador is another boss that a lot of people struggle with. So I wanted to make a guide for you guys who wanted to learn the dungeon, whether it be in a solo, a duo, or a trio. It will not make much difference. This video will be relevant to whichever group size you are in. The video will focus on soloing the dungeon. However, all of the mechanics, all of the information that I give you guys will apply just the same if you are in duo or if you're in trio. It will not make much difference, and you'll still be able to use this guide to learn either way. But anyway, I hope you enjoy. I hope the video does help you out if you're wanting to get into Elite Dungeon 3. So if it does help you out, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. But other than that, let's get going. Okay, so as we move on to gear requirements and also levels, I do want to just let you guys know that this is going to be focused on using range and magic. The reason being is I do not use melee almost at all, so the guide will be focused on using range and magic. However, you can kind of just use your common sense and just bring the best melee gear that you have access to. As long as the gear sits around the levels that I'm saying you'll need for range and magic as well, it should be about the same. But melee works absolutely great at ED3 anyway, so if that's all you do have, don't panic. Melee is absolutely fine, just sort of match it to the gear levels that I'm explaining for magic and range. Okay, so in the video in the background, you will be seeing me use magic. The reason I use magic is because I am better with it personally than I am with range, and I enjoy it a lot more. However, using range, using magic, using melee, they're all just as good as each other. Last couple of things before we jump onto the gear is it is very useful for you to have the Undead Slayer perk on a piece of your armor, as this can add 7% damage to undead, and of course that works on a lot of stuff in ED3. It works on the zombies, the skeletons, it works on Taraket as well, so it is absolutely useful to have. It is something that I would suggest you do get if you have the space for it on your perks. Also, having the Undead Slayer ability will be another great investment, as this does add 15% extra damage dealt to undead for the 10 seconds that it is on. This is super useful for Taraket. It makes that boss a hell of a lot easier. However, keep in mind it's not required, it's not something you have to have. It is just really helpful to have if you do have access to it. As a minimum, as you are going through all of the bosses, I would recommend you have tier 90 weapons at least. You do not have to have tier 92s, tier 90 is fine. And then for armor, I would recommend you have either Virtus, Pernix, or Torva, anything above that level as well. Of course, with magic, like I said, you could use Ganodermic as it is tank armor, and you can use Animate Dead. That will help out a lot. But otherwise, just stick with the next armors or go above that. You don't want to be going anything less than that, as it's going to make your life a lot more difficult. And if you are learning, you want to put yourself in the best situation you can. Oh, and of course, as you are learning, make sure you use a Ring of Death. It will save you a lot of money if you do die a few times, which you're probably going to do as you are learning the dungeon. So I don't like to touch on gear too much, as it's pretty simple. If you've got better gear, bring it and it'll make your life better. Apart from running a grimoire the whole time here, you could pretty much just use the best in slot gear that you can get your hands on, as that's going to make your life a lot easier. And ED3 is profitable enough where you can use that without having to panic too much. So as you can see here, I do have my full elite tectonic. I have Blast Diffusion boots, of course, best in slot for magic boots. And then I'm just using a Book of Jazz, as it's a lot cheaper. Use the Zamorak book when you are running through the trash mobs, as it does help clear them out with the AoE damage. I'm only using the Max Cape because I'm a noob and don't have the killing capes, and of course the Essence of Finality does have a Gothic staff in it as well, as it helps with magic. If you don't have an Essence of Finality, even using a Blood Amulet of Fury would absolutely be fine here, as it will help you heal through the trash mobs, and it'll also just give you a little bit of extra sustain while you're doing the bosses as well. But if you do have access to an Amulet of Souls or a Reaper Necklace, then use those, and then if you have an Essence of Finality, bring that as well. Of course, just upgrade as you can. Something that I would recommend that you do have is the Cinderbane gloves. These help a hell of a lot. If you don't have them, then don't panic, you can still do it without them, but they will help so much. And if this is something that you don't have, then I suggest you do consider getting some, as they will help on all of the trash mobs and all 3 of the bosses. All 3 bosses are poisonable. It can stack with weapon poison. You definitely want to have these. And then last but not least, make sure you do have a shield. Super important. For a lower level setup, I just wanted to show you guys this. I am using Sea Singer's robes. This does not have any perks on it. You could use Ganodermic armor, which you could use perks on too, and you could also get the superior Sea Singers, which will allow you to put perks on that as well. However, I did this in Sea Singers that I bought off the Grand Exchange. It does not have any perks in it, and if you use Animate Dead with this, you can actually get through the dungeon, and it's pretty chill. I'll show you guys that later on in the video though. As for range, it is very much the same sort of thing. You're going to want to have at least the Pernix armor, I would say, and then you're going to want to bring along the same sort of stuff as in your Essence of Finality if you have one, with a Dark Bow probably. If you have access to a SGB, then bring that along to the Ambassador, as it does work on him. You're going to want to make sure you do have your Cinderbane still. Fleeting Boots, obviously best in slot here as well, and of course you're going to want to have your Ring of Death. I would suggest having tier 90s as in Ascensions. If you have anything better than that, then happy days. And then of course any upgrades that you can find from what I'm showing, then bring those as well. Using ruby bolts for the bosses would be recommended with a switch of probably diamond or hydrix afterwards, but I don't like switching, so I just camp ruby bolts personally. But also using onyx bolts on the ambassador is very useful, and I would recommend that as a learner, but I will definitely talk about that when we get to it. The final thing to mention for range is you're going to want to bring chin chompers with you, the mechanized chin chompers. This will help clear the dungeon super quick, as you can stack up the mobs and chin them all down very, very quickly. Okay, so the final thing is just going to be inventory, and it's kind of self-explanatory. You've got your overloads, your prayer renewals, your prayer potions, or spiritual prayer potions, as you are going to be on a Ripper Demon for this. Of course, you can use a yak if you want as you're learning, but I would recommend just trying it on a Ripper Demon, as it will help you get through the bosses quicker, meaning you don't need to use as much food anyway. We have the adrenaline renewal, or the best adrenaline potion you can get your hands on. Then you're going to want to have vulnerability bombs for the bosses, of course. Chinchompers if you are on range. If not, then there's a good chance you're probably just going to have extra rune pouches in here. I have a bladed dive switch, as bladed dive and surge will help you get around the dungeon super quick. Bring a vigor for a switch. I do believe that Luck of the Dwarves does not affect the actual big drops from the ambassador. However, keep in mind that you can still use this to get access to the rare drop table while running the dungeon as well, so I bring it along for that. I also add 1 dose of weapon poison to my preset. This lets me drink one of those every time I load it and go back in, making sure to have weapon poison on for the entire dungeon, as it works on the mobs, it works on the bosses. It literally helps out a hell of a lot. Definitely worth bringing along. Now on magic, when you are running the dungeon, you're going to want to use the Insight Fear ability, as it does help clear the mobs out quite a bit. And then during the boss fights, I would recommend using Exsanguinate. With range, make sure you do have your ruby backcriminal bolts enchanted, equipped, and then if you do have a switch to that when the boss's health gets a little bit lower. Items like Enhanced Excalibur will help out a hell of a lot. And if you are on magic, then having Greater Chain available to yourself and having a Chroming 4 switch will definitely help clear the trash mobs a hell of a lot, but it is not needed for the bosses. Okay, so now that that is all out of the way, we're going to talk about the bosses individually. The run itself I'm not going to cover in this video, as I feel like most of you guys can probably run the dungeon yourselves, as if you are going to be able to deal with the bosses, the trash mobs should not be an issue for you. So let's start off with the Crassian Leviathan. Okay, so the first boss is the Crassian Leviathan. As you enter the room, the door behind you is going to seal off, and the Leviathan is going to be right at the end of the room inside a cave with his head sort of sticking out. That is all you get to fight, pretty much just his head. However, there are a few mechanics that you need to pay attention to almost straight away. So as soon as you enter the room, you're going to want to move right down to the bottom as fast as you can. The reason you want to do this is the first of the 2 mechanics that you're going to have to worry about in this fight is going to happen almost straight away. As soon as the fight starts, the Crassian Leviathan is going to use the Acid Breath special attack. Now what this does is it will fire a big Acid Breath attack down the center of the room, but in a cone shape. So the further away you are, the wider the attack is and the harder it is to avoid. So making sure you're next to the Leviathan when this happens is absolutely necessary to make sure you don't get caught out in this. What you're going to want to do is as soon as this happens, stand off to the side of the room, making sure you're not inside the acid breath, and then wait until it's done. You can already start attacking the Leviathan while he's doing this. Just make sure if you are using melee that you are using scythe range and you do not run in front of this acid. If this mechanic does hit you, you are going to take rapid 6k type plus damage hits. So basically you're pretty much dead. If you have a sign of life, you may be able to get out of it, but otherwise you're probably going to be dead. This is definitely the easiest mechanic to deal with, so you just have to stand off to the side. As soon as that is done, get back on the boss. If you're using range and magic, you can continue attacking. It's not a problem whatsoever. Something you can do at the beginning of the fight is make your way right into the middle of the room in front of the Leviathan, drop your Sunshine and Death Swiftness, and then that way you can edge it to the side, so you can stand in your Death Swiftness while you're out of the acid. But keep in mind you want to place this down and move straight away. If you don't move, you're going to get hit in the face by the acid and it's going to hurt. If you don't want to do this, if this is too risky, especially while you're learning, just wait for the acid to be done and then drop your Death Swiftness or your Sunshine in the middle once that is done. The reason we place this in the middle is to deal with the second mechanic. Having it in the middle lets you do the optimal DPS, allowing you to stay in your Death Swiftness or your Sunshine while you are actually moving and avoiding the next mechanic, so you can stay in there, do as much damage as you can, and get the fight over and done with as soon as possible. When you enter here, you're going to want to just have Soul Split active. You do not need to worry about praying anything else. Just keep Soul Split active, you'll be absolutely fine. Okay, so the second mechanic with the Leviathan is going to be the head swing. Now that might sound like a bit of a silly name, but it's what I've called it because he just swings his head side to side. If you are in the way of the head when it does swing, basically you're going to take a big amount of damage and it will probably kill you if you do get sort of caught underneath this. However, this mechanic is easy enough to avoid, so don't panic too much. Once you've got used to where you want to run, it makes absolute perfect sense and you'll be absolutely fine. So what he's going to do is going to start swinging his head from one side of the room to the other. So a good thing to do is to make sure you're not stood against either of the walls. Just make sure you are stood fairly close to the center of his head. That way you can give yourself extra time to react to whichever side he decides to start from. It is random wherever he starts, and the special attack does make him swing his head 2 times, one going one way and then one going back the other way before going back to just attacking as normal. So as you can see here, he has started swinging his head from this side, but I will move to the other side of the room and wait it out. Now you can't stand too far back, and you don't want to put yourself against the wall, as you will still get hit by a spike for around about 3.6k. Don't worry about it too much. If you do get hit by that, it is not going to kill you off. As soon as he has swung his head and got to the other side, you want to move immediately back to the other end, because he is going to swing from that side and come back to where he started. If you get caught under this, like I said, you're going to take a lot of damage and it will likely kill you. Like I say, the easiest way to deal with this is to stand closer to the middle of the head. As soon as he picks his side where to swing from, start running to the other end, and then as soon as that head does stop moving, he's going to come back the other way, so move all the way down to the other end again, and then back to DPS. Having your Death Swiftness or your Sunshine in the middle of the room allows you to edge on this, meaning you do not have to step out of the Death Swiftness or the Sunshine at any point, meaning you can just continue on with as much DPS as you can. Okay, so that's the second mechanic done, and that is actually pretty much it for the mechanics that you have to worry about killing you off. You may have noticed at this point that there is acid in the middle of the room. You do not want to step on this, as it is going to stun you and then poison you, and also being stunned in this could end up you getting hit by the acid breath. The acid breath will only happen about twice in the entire fight, and that is going to be 1 when he does it right at the beginning of the fight, and then 2, he's going to swap sides once he has done 2 lots of head swings. So he'll swing his head once and then twice, and then he will move to the other side of the room. Now, the acid in the middle of the room that is blocking you from going to that side is going to stun you if you try and just run across. So what you want to do is use Anticipate or Freedom, and then use Surge or Bladed Dive, or both, to get yourself to the other side as fast as you can. Once you are on the other side, you are going to get another Acid Breath special attack, the one where he will fire it down the middle, and if you are in it, you are going to die. So what you want to do is stand off to the side again as soon as you surge to the other side, stand off to the side, wait for him to come out, and then you can start doing DPS as soon as you want, but just make sure you're not stood in front of him when that acid breath goes off. It's going to happen straight away as soon as you swap sides, so keep an eye out for that. And once he's done that, he will just repeat the exact same things as the other side, swinging his head side to side until you've done the DPS. If the fight goes on long enough from this point, he will then swap back to the other side again, but don't worry about it, he'll just keep repeating the same mechanics, nothing else changes. Just remember, when you're swapping sides, to Freedom or Anticipate, and then surge through the acid. At this point, you should have managed to get yourself to the end of the kill. This boss isn't too hard, like I said. Camp Soul Split, get through, just do the DPS, move to side to side when the head swings, and watch out for that acid breath. Otherwise, you'll be absolutely fine. It always goes in the rotation of acid breath, 2 head swings, swap sides, acid breath, 2 head swings, swap sides. That's it. So once you've ran from where the Leviathan is to the next boss, you will fight Taraket the Necromancer. This boss is definitely a pain in the ass to learn and is something that will probably stress a few people out, but it's okay, we got you covered, you got this. So a few things to note before we get started is the Undead Slayer Sigil does work here, is definitely something worth using if you have it, definitely don't forget about that. Also, if you have the Salve Amulet, the enchanted version, it will do a hell of a lot of damage here as well. That makes it the best in slot amulet that you can use. You definitely want to use that here. These effects work on the boss, not just the ads, so it is definitely worth using as it will increase your damage on him a hell of a lot. So the way the fight works is there's going to be 4 different phases. You're going to start off the first phase by just doing DPS to Taraket. He will start the fight by using magic, and throughout the fight he will switch between range and magic. You'll know he's using range because he will use Death Swiftness, and you'll see that around him, but also his attack animation changes from a big fireball, which is your magic hit, to a kind of white line sort of thing, which is your range hit. But the Death Swiftness is the big giveaway. During each phase, there's going to be portals that do spawn. You want to kill these portals as soon as you can, as they do spawn skeletons, and you want those skeletons to stop spawning. A good thing to do is use AoE on the portals as you kill them, so using chins is definitely advised on these. And also, if you are on magic, you want to use things like Detonate, Tsunami, use your Greater Chain, anything like that to help clear out the skeletons as you're DPSing down the portal. The skeletons don't have much health, so they die fairly easily. The first phase will end when you get him down to 200,000 life points, and he will fly off to the right and summon the first bloat. Now, you want to kill this bloat as soon as it spawns because it is just a pain in the ass. It does hit with melee, so if you want, you can prayer flick between melee and then whatever style Taraket is using on you at the time. He could be using magic, he could be using range, but you would have to switch between melee and whichever style he is using if you are prayer flicking. Personally, I actually kite this first one around, so what I will do is I will put my bleeds on the bloat and then just kite him around the room, doing as much damage as I can until he dies. This just allows you to not have to prayer flick for one, but also it just means you don't take any damage whatsoever. You're walking bleeds anyway. There's no reason not to do this unless one, you're not very good at kiting or you're using revolution which won't let you kite, or two, maybe you have your death swiftness or your sunshine down and you want to just be in that. Whichever way works for you, you just want to kill this bloat off as soon as possible. At some point between now and getting back on Taraket, you may get a second portal. Again, just kill the bloat off, then kill the portal, and then get back on Taraket. Always focus on the extras first. Once you're back on Taraket, you're going to be switching again between magic and range depending what style he is using, so keep an eye out for that. His health would have increased back over 200,000 at this point, so what you want to do is get him back down to 200,000 again, and this time he will fly off to the left hand side. He will fly off there and he will spawn a bigger bloat. It is a corpse carrier. This spawns skeletons like a portal does, and you can get yourself in a situation where the portal and the corpse carrier will be spawned at the same time and they will both be pushing out skeletons, and it can get hectic. So what I suggest you do is, if you have the Undead Slayer ability, you want to use this as this spawns and DPS the corpse carrier down as soon as possible. With the Undead Slayer ability, you can definitely get this killed super quick. You can get rid of it, you can wipe it out, you can make sure it is gone before it spawns too many skeletons. This is definitely worth saving for this point. If you don't and you are on range, just equip Chin Chompers and attack the corpse carrier with the Chin Chompers. This will kill any skeletons that spawn around it at the same time. You may not get them all, but it will reduce the numbers of skeletons that you are tanking at the same time. Also, if you're on magic, just do the same sort of thing. You could swap back to Insight Fear to make sure you have the AoE, which will help a little bit, but I would just still consider just being on Exsanguinate so you can kill the boss as quick as possible, get the bloat down, and make sure that you actually do just use your AoEs. Use Tsunami, make sure you use Detonate, make sure you use your Greater Chain. If you have Chroming Switch, even better. The skeletons will die quick. What you can do is charge Detonate as soon as it appears, then release that with a Deto and a Wild Magic. Just basically do as much DPS as you can to get this down. Once the second bloat is dead with the corpse carrier, make sure you kill the second portal and then get back on the boss. When you get the boss down again to below 200,000 life points, he will go into the last phase. In this phase, he will still summon portals every now and again, and he will still do the same thing between switching between magic and range. However, at one point, he will summon a line of ghosts. When you see that line of ghosts, you want to escape through it or surge through it, or if you're in a good position to do so, just step to the side so those ghosts do not go through you. The ghosts will go towards you if you stand in the same place and do not move, and they will do typeless damage, and they will do it fairly fast. It is a good amount of damage. It can get you killed. One other thing to note is do not surge through Taraket when this happens. If the ghosts come and you surge through Taraket, you will take a big melee hit, and then also if you get hit by the ghosts, you can definitely die to this. The best way to deal with this is literally just escape back through it, or surge to the side, or bladed dive out of the way. Whatever you want to do, those are the best ways to deal with it. Keep in mind, he will spawn 2 lines of these, one after the other. He will spawn one, and as soon as that is done, he will do another one. And then later on again, if you don't do enough DPS to end the fight quickly, the chances are he will spawn it one more time as well. That's okay, don't worry if you get it twice. Honestly, your kills at first are going to be a little bit slow, but it's absolutely fine. Don't worry about it, don't panic. For the rest of the fight, all you're going to be doing is DPSing Taraket down and making sure you can do as much damage as you can, watching out for the portals, killing them as soon as possible, dodging any lines of ghosts, and getting his health down to 0. Something to note is if you don't kill off the skeletons once you've killed the portals, eventually he will absorb the skeletons and he will have an uber heal from that. This is why I suggest using AoE when you kill the portals and when you kill the corpse carrier, as it will clear off most of the skeletons as well. Leaving a few isn't a big deal, it's not the end of the world, but if you do have something like Greater Chain with Chroming, or if you do have Greater Ricochet with Chroming, then I would suggest firing that off on the skeletons just to clear them off and just keeping the numbers down. Don't leave hundreds of skeletons around. 1, you'll have to tank them, and 2, he will get a big uber heal, slowing you down by a lot. But at this point, once you've killed off the first bloat, the second bloat with the corpse carrier, all the portals, avoided the ghosts, and then DPS Taraket down, you should be able to get a kill, and that should be pretty much it. Sounds simple, right? Trust me, this boss fight will take some time to practice for some people. If you're struggling, don't panic too much. If you're struggling with Ripper Demon, bring a yak, see if that helps out. Make sure you eat as much as you need to eat. Just keep in mind that sometimes it is better to try and learn with a Ripper Demon, as it will help move your DPS, meaning overall in the fight you're in there less, taking less damage, so it does kind of balance out that way. But like I said, the main things you need to worry about is just killing off the bloats, killing off the portals, making sure you don't leave too many skeletons, and that's pretty much it. There are some specific techniques to actually making this fight a little bit easier. One involves pushing Taraket one square to the left as soon as you start the fight, so that he flies to the left hand side first and summons this corpse carrier before summoning the first bloat. This allows you to actually kill that off without stacking portals, so this can definitely help. You can do that by using Shock and Demoralize, which are abilities that you get from the Scare Tactics Codex, which you can buy on the Grand Exchange for fairly cheap. These aren't needed, it's not required, but it's definitely something that I used to do when I was learning this boss. So all you do is go down as soon as you start the fight, just push him one square to the left using Demoralize or Shock, and then as soon as that's done, just get back to DPSing as normal, and he will fly off to the left and summon that corpse carrier first. Alright, next up we have the Ambassador. This is definitely a difficult boss fight to get used to. However, once you get comfortable with the mechanics and you understand how it works, you can start focusing more on DPS and making sure your life is a bit easier. As with this boss, if you can one cycle on the Sinister Fragments, it will make your life a lot easier, as you don't have to spend as much time in the fight. And also, of course, if you can clear all of those Sinister Fragments off during the spinning thing, it makes your life a lot easier, as you don't have to deal with like so many explosions dealing so much damage to you. There is ways to deal with that, and I will tell you how to deal with that. But if you do mess up for a little while on this boss, do not get stressed. A good thing you can do to practice is, even if you do get towards the end of the fight, I know it's going to be tempting to kill that boss, try and get the big drop that you've wanted to do, but if when you do get towards the end you feel like there's still a lot that you could learn and you don't kind of want to rerun the whole dungeon, what you can do is teleport out. This is what I did. I teleported out, I went back in, and I'd redo the fight until I was comfortable that I could do this fight easily without having to then rerun the whole dungeon, because as a new player, it could probably take you 40 minutes-ish to run this dungeon, including learning the bosses and stuff. So I would actually recommend that if you are wanting to properly learn this boss and not have to invest a ton of time into it, then you could teleport out towards the end and then come back in, redo the fight, teleport out, come back in, and then eventually when you are comfortable, like, yeah, I can do this, this is fairly easy, I understand how it works now, kill the boss off, rerun the dungeon, and then just keep going at that point. Okay, so the Ambassador, when you start this fight, you're going to want to be praying magic. Throughout the entire fight, the main protection prayer that you're going to be using is Protect from Range. However, every now and again, he will fire out a big blue magic hit, which you'll be able to see on screen now. And when those come towards you, you want to be protecting magic so that you don't take hits up to about 4 to 5k. So what you'll do is you'll start with Protect from Magic, as he will use one of those magic hits straight away. And then as soon as that's hit, you will change to range, use your Death Swiftness, Sunshine, whatever you're using, and then DPS as much as you can. What you can do at the beginning of the fight is, if you have started with 100% Adrenaline, which of course I would recommend you do from the Adrenaline Crystals, is use Devotion. Make sure you go in with Protect from Magic on, Devotion activated, because it'll cost you no Adrenaline, and then you can make sure that that first hit actually does nothing whatsoever. So in the first phase, the things you're going to need to look out for is the magic hits, which will come fairly regular throughout the first phase, and then you've also got the Corruption Smoke, which is going to put a bar above your head and you'll have smoke in your character. When that bar empties, you're going to place a smoke on the ground where your character is stood. If you enter this smoke again after you've placed it, you will take tick damage for type plus damage, and it can kill you pretty damn quickly. This can be an issue because if you have Death Swiftness or Sunshine down, you do not want to place it in there, as it can, like, obviously affect your DPS because you won't be able to stand in your Sunshine. I find that the easiest way to deal with this is, before the bar that indicates when you're going to drop the smoke does just hit the empty and you do drop it, you want to press Escape so that it drops further back on the outer edge of the room, and then that way you don't have to go back towards the area and it is out of your way as well. You're going to have 2 of these smokes to place before he starts the Sinister Fragments, which is where you run around and kill the little fragments when there's the spinner thing going on. You do want to be careful with where you place these, as if it does block your path, then it can make your life a little bit more difficult, as if you do re-enter them, you will take a lot of damage. Another thing to note is, once you place these smokes, if you continue running straight away, you will leave a trail of it, dragging it out a little bit further. So what you can do is, once you've escaped, if you just wait for a second, as soon as you've waited a little bit, you can run forward again, and that way you'll just leave the smoke in a small little patch, and it won't be spread across the whole arena. Once you've placed the smoke, you want to go back to DPS and the Ambassador as much as you can, but keep an eye out for these magic hits that are going to be coming, because not counting the very first one at the beginning of the fight, you are going to get 3 more of these magic hits before he does the first Sinister Fragment special attack. Once you've placed the first smoke on the ground, you will have 5 auto attacks before the next mechanic does come into play, which is a black hole. You will see a black hole appear, and you will get a little message as well telling you that a black hole has appeared, and what you need to do is use any stun ability on the black hole to clear it. If you're magic, use Rack. If you're on range, then use Binding Shot, and you'll be absolutely fine to clear that off. You don't have to deal damage to this portal, you don't have to kill it off like the ones at Taraket. If you stun them, they will disappear immediately. If you do not stun this portal, it will hit you for a lot of damage, and and it will probably kill you off because of how much damage it does do. So when you see the portal, make sure you do stun it immediately. You do have a little bit of time before it does blow up. Don't panic if you are on global cooldown, or if your stun is just like a couple of seconds not ready. Don't panic. You do have a little bit of time to do it, but it makes sense to just stun this straight away. Make sure you've got it out of the way, and make sure you do not forget about it. After the portal, you'll get another smoke, and then once that smoke's been dealt with, 5 auto attacks later is when he will start these sinister fragments. You can phase the ambassador into these sinister fragments early if you do get him to 650k life points. However, as a learner, this is probably not something you will do, so don't panic too much. But if you do get him to 650k life points before all the mechanics that I've just mentioned have been done, you have skipped some of the mechanics, don't panic, but just keep in mind that 650k life points, you are going immediately into the sinister fragments on the next special attack rotation. Okay, so it's time to deal with these sinister fragments. What you want to do here is pay attention to where the ambassador is facing and line yourself up with his back. You'll see that I'm doing that on screen right now, and you want to make sure this is where you stand. The reason you stand here is it is always a safe spot for where the big beams of fire come out from the ambassador. If you get hit by those beams of fire, trust me, you are dead. They are going to do so much damage. It is something you do not want to touch at all during this entire phase. If you accidentally surge into it, if you accidentally get too close to it, you can take a lot of damage and it can kill you very quickly. So what you want to do is place yourself on his back like this. Make sure you've got a little bit of room between you and the ambassador. Then as soon as he fires out the fragments, you want to target one of those. You can use target cycling here if you'd like, or just click on it like I do. And then as soon as you've targeted one of those, you want to start DPSing as much as you can. You can use soul split here, as you will not take any damage from anything except for the fire if you touch it. So you want to DPS these down as fast as you can, moving on to the next one immediately. Weapon poison, Cinderblade gloves work absolutely great on these, and your Ripper Demon can help as well. Sometimes it gets bugged out a little bit and stands and does nothing, but if you absolutely need the help from the Ripper Demon, then do just click the call button and he will help you on the next one. You want to DPS these down until they are dead, moving on to the next one as soon as you can. What you want to do is make sure you clear either all of these, or ideally you want to only ever leave one. If you leave two, I would actually personally just teleport out and reset. The reason you don't want to deal with two is it gets ridiculously difficult to deal with the big damage hits that come in waves of explosions as soon as this ends. As for each fragment that you do leave, it does give one wave of explosion, dealing around about 9,000 damage, I do believe. And of course, this is something that you can deal with on one fragment fairly easily. But when it comes to two, you've then got to manage other defensives that like reduce damage by a hell of a lot, and it just becomes kind of not worth your time. What you want to do is DPS these down, ideally clear them all off. If you don't clear them all off, then just leave one at the most, and then you can deal with the next mechanic fairly easily. Okay, so once you've gone around, you followed the fire going around killing all the fragments. If you've killed all of them, happy days, just continue on DPSing the ambassador as soon as you can. However, for this, we are going to assume you haven't killed one of them due to DPS, and you have actually got to deal with one of the big damage hits. This is easy enough to do as long as it's one, like I said, and all you need to do is as soon as that gets retracted to the ambassador, you're going to be able to attack him again. It will say that one charge has been stored, assuming it was just the one, and then what you're going to want to do is put on a shield, or if you have access to disruption shield, get ready with that as well. And then you're going to want to stand near the ambassador and wait for a ranged hit to hit you. Make sure you're praying protect from range again, of course, and then as soon as you get hit by one range hit, you want to resonance or use disruption shield immediately. The reason you do this is because after one hit is when he's going to use the big explosion damage, and while it is typeless damage, it will reduce it to 0 if you use resonance, and if you are using disruption shield, of course, that will block all the damage for that attack as well. So this is the best way to deal with this, but like I said, if you had 2, you would then have to try and maybe use barricade straight after that as well. If you had 3, then I don't even know what I'd suggest at that point. Just teleport out and come back and just try it again. So one fragment, absolutely fair enough. Just resonance after the range hit hits you. Make sure that range hit hits you. See that number on your person first. Don't panic. It does happen quickly after that range hit hits, but you will have time. As soon as you see the number on your character, hit the resonance button or hit the disruption shield button, and you'll be absolutely fine as long as you do that. At this point, the rotation of his abilities are just going to go exactly the same as before. He's going to have a magic hit, and then he's going to use the smoke, and then another magic hit, and then a portal, and then the same sort of stuff as before. All you want to do is DPS him down as fast as you can. Ideally, you need to get his health to 550k at this point to make sure he goes into phase 2. The reason you want to do this is if you don't, he will use the Sinister Fragments again. Even if he is on 551,000 life, he will use them again. You will have to repeat the whole thing, dealing with more fragments if you don't get them, and it can end up in you losing a lot of food if you make mistakes, and it can just drag out the fight and make life a lot more difficult. So you want to try your best to make sure you get his health down to 550k as soon as you have dealt with the Sinister Fragments. Remember, you are protecting from range and then protect from magic when the magic hits do come. Something else you can do if you are feeling absolutely brilliant, you can resonance the magic hits as they come towards you, making sure that you do actually heal the damage instead. This can save you a lot of food. However, if you make mistakes, it can also cost you a lot of food. So just weigh that up in your own head, and if you're comfortable with it, then give it a shot. Alright, so you've reached 550,000 life points and you've dealt with all the other mechanics prior to this, and as soon as you do that, he's going to summon some minions that you want to just basically ignore. They're going to do damage to you and they still attack with range, so just don't panic too much. You've got protect from range on, you'll be okay. The damage from these can add up quite a lot, so I would actually suggest if you are on range, then maybe use Onyx Bolts at this point until phase 3, as it will save you quite a lot of food. However, if you are on magic, you'll be 4-ticking hopefully with Blood Barrage, but if not, don't panic too much. You still should be absolutely fine. All you need to do at this point is DPS through. You're trying to get him down to 400,000 life points. Between now and getting to 400,000 life points, you are still going to get the same mechanics, including the smokes, including the portals. You have to keep an eye out for those. As soon as you get the smoke on you, do the exact same thing. Escape back to the edge of the room, let the smoke drop, and then any portals, stun them immediately, and then get back onto DPSing. You need to focus on DPSing here. The sooner you get to 400,000, the sooner the fight becomes a hell of a lot safer and a fair amount easier. As soon as you hit 400,000 life points, our good friend Seiryu is going to appear, and he's going to actually give you a full heal from wherever you are at the time. You don't have to move anywhere, you don't have to do anything, you just have to stand where you are, and he will send out a beam towards you, and when it hits you, you will get a full heal. This is absolutely great. So if you are nearing 400,000 life points and your health is looking fairly low, don't panic eat, because you are going to be wasting food. Keep your health wherever you want to keep it. Make sure you don't die, of course, but when that hits you, you will get a full heal, and this is something you can use to save you a hell of a lot of food. Once Seiryu has healed you, he will then return a second time very shortly after, and he will clear off all of the minions that the ambassador has spawned. He will get rid of all of them for you, so you do not have to pay any attention to them. They are gone. He will also clear the arena of any smoke clouds, so you don't have to deal with those anymore. Once this has happened, the ambassador will then head into phase 3. Phase 3 is probably one of the most dangerous phases, as if you make a mistake, you are going to die 100%. However, the mechanics are actually fairly easy to deal with as well, so forget all of the panic, you're going to be fine. Okay, so phase 3 starts, and it is indicated to you by the ambassador spawning a lot of black hands that you've seen in previous dungeons if you've done those around the edge of the arena. If you haven't seen them before, you trust me, you'll notice them. They're massive and you cannot miss them. In this phase, you no longer have to deal with portals and you no longer have to deal with smokes. You'll be absolutely fine. Every now and again, you will still get the magic hit, but there's another way to deal with that, and I'll be explaining that to you, so don't worry. As soon as he does phase here, what you want to do is DPS him down, keep DPSing him, and as soon as those hands spawn, you want to head towards Ambassador and stand underneath him by right-clicking and pressing walk here. Make sure you're on 100% adrenaline and use your Sunshine or your Death Swiftness and place it underneath the Ambassador. The reason you place it here is because you are going to be rotating around the Ambassador in melee distance, and this allows you to make sure you are stood in your Sunshine or your Death Swiftness the entire time that it is up. If you place it off to the side of him, eventually you may have to move out of it, or even immediately you may have to be forced to step out of it, as you do need to block smokes that will be coming from the hands around the outside of the room. So, once the phase has begun, one of the hands on the outside of the arena is going to slam down into the ground, and then white smoke will start emerging from the hand, going directly towards the Ambassador. This will happen from any random specific hand at the beginning, but then afterwards it will rotate to the very next hand, going in a clockwise motion. What you want to do is place your character between the Ambassador and that line of smoke that is coming from that hand, as any white smoke that reaches the Ambassador will heal him. If you block it, if you're stood in the way, the smoke turns black, and rather than healing the Ambassador, the smoke will damage you. However, the damage that you take is very small compared to the amount of heals that the Ambassador will get, so it is absolutely necessary for you to get in the way of these smokes. What you're going to want to do is, once you've placed your Death Swiftness or Sunshine directly under the Ambassador, you want to stand wherever the hand slams his hand down first, block that line of smoke, and then as soon as that ends, move clockwise by 1 square to make sure that you block the next line of smoke as soon as it comes. Keep DPSing, focusing on DPS as much as you can. That is the biggest thing in this phase. Make sure you focus as much DPS as you can. Every now and then, you're going to get hit by a big melee hit. It is not going to be as powerful as the magic hits, but because you're in melee distance, you won't take any of the magic hits that I mentioned earlier. They will be all melee as you are in the melee distance. He will not change to that. So keep protect from range on this entire time. Do not bother changing to melee, trying to anticipate it. Just tank them. You'll be absolutely fine. Eventually, he is going to turn the screen red, and he's going to say, fall now and be forgotten. What's going to happen is he's going to send 5 huge magic hits that can deal around about 8,000 damage to your character all in one go. The easiest way to deal with this is to put on magic protection and use devotion. As soon as this starts, you want to put magic prayer on, and trust me, get devotion done as soon as you can. Still focus on DPS while you have devotion on, because you don't want to get many of these, as it will happen every 10 auto attacks. So as soon as you see him say fall now and be forgotten, and the room also turns red, there'll be a short delay between when he sends these attacks out to you. Press magic prayer, use devotion, you'll be absolutely fine. As soon as those 5 magic hits are done, you want to change back to range. However, the safest way to do this, as if you do it too soon, you will probably die, is to wait for one range hit to hit you. If you tank one range hit, it is safer than just taking one of the big magic hits and killing yourself off. Trust me, one of those magic hits can be enough to kill you if you change your prayer too soon. As soon as you see that range hit, change back to protect from range and focus back on DPS. Continue on blocking the smokes from the hands and moving around the ambassador one square at a time so that you can keep blocking those smokes. However, you may be able to end the fight here before he does the next magic onslaught, which is where he says fall now and be forgotten. If you do not do enough damage, don't panic. There is another way to deal with this. It becomes quite easy. All you need to do is, as soon as he says fall now and be forgotten again after 10 more auto attacks, put a shield on, use reflect and use debilitate. Make sure you've saved adrenaline, of course, and then make sure you have protect from magic on, and these hits will do a hell of a lot less damage and you'll be absolutely fine. Just eat up, eat through it, you'll be okay, don't panic. If you are then still not able to end the fight before the next one, you will be able to use devotion again at this point. So as soon as it happens again, just press protect from magic, use devotion, and you'll be good to go. At this point, you should have ended the fight. If not, you've probably run out of food and you'll probably want to reset. You can use Onyx Bolts, like I said, to keep your health high. However, I would recommend using the Ruby Bolts at least until he gets to around about 150,000 life points, as then they kind of lose their effect, and then using Onyx Bolts makes absolute sense. Like I say, Phase 3 is all about blocking the smokes, doing as much DPS as you can, and when the magic onslaught comes and he calls your name and says fall now and be forgotten, protect from magic and use your defensive abilities to block that damage. As soon as you see that range hit, change back to range and just DPS him down. That is it for this phase. As soon as you are done, good luck. I hope you get an Eldritch Crossbow piece. Well, there we have it. If you managed to get through all of that and you've managed to successfully get through all those bosses, you've completed DD3, and I hope that this video has helped you out. If it has, guys, please do leave a like on the video. This is by far my longest video that I have ever made, and it is by far the longest video that has ever taken me to make as well. I've put a lot of effort into it, and I hope it has helped you out. Last thing, if there's any questions that you guys do have, do let me know in the comments. I will answer as many as I can. Of course, as always, even if this video, if you're watching it like months down the line, just leave a comment. If I get a notification for it, I will definitely reply to you as soon as possible. Anyway, guys, we're definitely not going to drag this on much longer, so if you did enjoy, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Thank you so much to my channel members for all the extra support. Anyone else wanting to join the channel members, there is a join button by the sub button, which lets you support the channel while also getting some perks for yourself as well. Thank you all so much for watching. Good luck at ED3, and I'll see you all in the next one. See you later, guys. Bye.